So moving on to our next panel and interview, we've got our very own Lisa Crymes, Fellow of HITLAB, interviewing Kelly Zhu from Viatri. Kelly, you there?
Hi, everyone, I'm here.
Hi, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, hi, Lisa, you there as well?
Hi, Jerry. Yes, I'm here. Great to see you again, Kelly.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both for coming on. Lisa, if you'd like to start off by giving us a quick 60-second intro about your background, and then I welcome you to start the conversation off with Kelly on health tech adoption. Health tech adoption, clinicians, health systems, and life science and partnerships, I think is what you're going to be talking about today.
Awesome. Yeah, sure. Lisa Crymes, I've been in healthcare technology for about a little over 20 years, 22, 23 years or so. I've been in a number of great healthcare technology companies like McKesson and really Health, MDI, and a couple of it that we all know now is Change Healthcare. I've also other than the enterprise world, I've also worked in the startup space with a great medical device and digital health and analytics company. So I've had an opportunity to be in product management and strategy, bringing products to market. So I'm happy to be a part of and working with HITLAB. And Kelly, I am excited to get to chat with you again. And you've got an amazing background and you're doing some great work. So I think that's probably where we want to start, is just hear a little bit more about your background and exactly the work you're doing in your particular role at Viatri.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. And first of all, thanks to HITLAB for having me. I've been here several times in the past. I really enjoyed it. I really agree with one comment in the chat box. The health data science program is really a great one. So as you can see on the screen, I'm Kelly Zhu. I'm the head of global medical analytics and real world evidence at Viatri. So Viatri was formed as the spin out from Pfizer, and also formed with another company, Mylan, to form this new company, which is a little bit over a year. And I still have my prior role, and in my prior role at Pfizer, I was the vice president, head of medical analytics and insights in our business that got formed into Viatri. And a little bit before then, I was the head of the methods and algorithms for real world evidence to support all business units that some of you might be very familiar with, various sort of topics and therapeutic areas. The other aspect is that, interestingly, I did have a decade long sort of experience as an academic sort of faculty member at Harvard Medical School. So very interestingly, talking about digital health, I was the main statistician for the radiology department at Brigham and Women's Hospital. So interacting with, health imaging data, digital data all the time. And then at one time, I was also the head of statistics at Children's Hospital Boston, working with many departments. So really, I enjoy not only the academic side of this, just like this program, but also interacting with various people from different sectors. If you're from startup, if you're from companies, if you just want to learn more about digital health, I really welcome sort of knowing more about some of our students and some HITLAB colleagues here. Thank you.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's just so exciting to hear that background and how that all comes together here. Well, I think we want to dig in and talk a little bit about partnerships and collaboration, and your thoughts on how that really furthers health tech adoption in pharma and in healthcare, and maybe even what's the difference between partnership and collaborations.
I think many people use them interchangeably, because that's really teamwork, right? So when you think about a very infancy of some new ideas about products, uh, at the beginning, you might be doing it more alone, just like think about the iconic image of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, and they had this product, at its infancy. But the next step is really to really commercialize it and scaling it up. So that's when you really need multiple stakeholders. So in terms of partnership, what we often see it is that it could be a contractual relationship. So if you could have multiple groups within the same company, sometimes there's something called service level agreements. So even though you are saying I'm working together, what is the actual relationship between different stakeholders and groups? So that's kind of within the company sort of partnership, but it's less of partnership rather than collaboration. But then when you really formalize partnership, for example, private-public partnerships between a university, and we may talk a little bit about tech transfer, is that what is the relationship between academic institution, for example, or consortium, or sometimes it's really biotech and a more established company like pharma. So I think partnerships come, in terms of different sizes, shapes, and forms, and it could be minimally one-on-one, but maximally could be group of, most recently, we are a member of a European tech partnership, which is called Gravitat Health, and there are 39, organizations. So it is really a consortium. It's a very big partnership. So I think, when you think about these two, what are some fundamental skill sets needed beyond working, not just say alone? So that's the key aspect.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So I think this is maybe a little hard to narrow down, but if you could maybe focus on maybe your top 3 tips when it comes to partnerships in healthcare.
So, at one time at Pfizer, I was a client partner to 2 different businesses. And there are different sort of stakeholders ranging from medical, economics, market access, commercial, marketing, IT. So I think the key to think about forming a fruitful relationship is really put yourself in the shoes of the other. So my first tip is that not just thinking about how to maximize my value, what does your partner really want to get out of this? For example, there are some really great partnerships that in terms of, digital health and in terms of, some of these, consortium and lectures and so on and so forth. So it could be educational, could be a product. But that's my first tip, is that really understand what is the objective function, what each side is trying to get at. Second tip is that, really think about the deliverable in terms of timeline. Because, for example, in universities, many times in terms of AI, digital, the hope is that I'll fund the student, I'll write papers. But for a company, their budget cycle could be annually. When they start to really form this kind of relationship, it could already be contractually around April, like this time, but they want to deliver something to see the milestones by the end of the year. So realistically, there's a sort of a different frequency of showing what you can do, and it could be different phases. So my second tip is that understanding the milestones. My third tip is really also about not only the technical skills, but also the soft skills. Because many times, communication is so critical. And then, when you set this partnership, you might interact weekly, bi-weekly, and you need to understand what is the languages the other part is using. So for academics, we often talk about grants. We also talk about publications. But for companies, what is the prototype? What about regulatory requirements? Who are the user bases? And also, what about UX testing? And finally, when would the product be on the market? So I think, that could be different sets of languages to learn from each other.
Those are great. I think that ties in with maybe the things that we were just talking about, humanizing the world that we're in from a digital perspective. Well, I know we only have a few more minutes left. I don't see any questions coming in. So if we can maybe take a few more minutes with hearing your thoughts on tech transfer and your collaborations with the Digital Medicine Society and statistical partnerships among academia, industry, and government award.
Yeah, so when I was in radiology at Brigham, we worked very closely with AI labs and so on. So I think many of our colleagues, they started out having some small business grants, and then they sometimes that could be new pulse sequence, sometimes could be new imaging tools, sometimes it will be new ways of doing real-time tumor intervention and so on. Starting small, but you definitely have a combination of government grant funding and also some small business funding. That's when you really need to look out for what are the languages in terms of patents, in terms of ownership. And then you need to think about the strategy with the VC funding in terms of scaling up. And I think the main challenge is that a lot of times we have something that's really great for our customers, meaning our patients, but can they really adhere to it? So the question becomes not only starting to use it, how long and how many people will be using it for a long period of time. So I think you need to think about those aspects. And also finally, for companies, publication is important, but also getting the return of investment is very critical as well. In terms of SPAIC Award, I was chairing the American Statistical Association Statistical Partnership among academy, industry, and government sectors. It's really to recognize the partnerships across any two sectors, meaning maybe not just a company to company, but could be company with government, company with academia, HITLAB, so on and so forth. So every year it's called SPAIC, S-P-A-I-G, and I can send you in the chat the link if by every March, if you have something wonderful, nominate yourself for this SPAIC Award annually.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you, Kelly. I think we could probably keep going for hours, but with that, I will turn it back to Jerry.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. And thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Kelly. Terrific interview and a lot to learn. As always, Kelly, a wealth of knowledge. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And again, welcome everybody to the going into hour number 2 now of the April Symposium around the adoption of digital technologies in healthcare. Again, my name is Stan Kichnowski, and I've just dropped my LinkedIn link into the chat box in case you have any questions that you want answered, any lessons you want learned over the last couple of hours of the program. If you could feel free to chat on the LinkedIn page, as it's the chat box, as you can see in the symposia, are always very busy.